I guess maybe just take a seat anywhere up here that doesn't currently have a laptop or a iPad or something in it. How's it going? I definitely got sorry. I will keep in mind. Yeah. That's Dave's testing it right now. I got your email from our show, and I was like, I definitely did not do testing. Yeah. Do you want me to scoot over one? I mean, it's okay. So last year they could hear everybody at the corner without even having to move the thing. Really? I can put the game way up. No, we're good. Look at you doing everything. It was in the middle last year. I don't understand why it's over there, but it's okay. I think it's not mine. Right.
Wow. Okay, it is 9 a.m. Call this meeting of the Alpha Delta Zeta Housing Corporation to order. For any of you who don't know me, my name is Rob Sutton. I am the Housing Corporation President for Alpha Delta Zeta. Welcome. Actually feels like fall finally here in Missouri after feeling like summer until what, a week ago, 2 days ago. We have a full docket of reports and business today. So let's get right into it.
Is that minutes or is that's the agenda? That's the agenda. Okay. It's highly likely there are things missing off the agenda, so feel free to step in and I'll type in the minutes.
Okay. So first piece of the meeting is officer reports. So again, welcome. My name is Rob Sutton. It's good to see some good set of folks here again, since St. Pat's was a fairly sparse gathering of the alumni after such a huge gathering at the homecoming and centennial last year. One of the things that we're going to discuss later on today is let's start with I think things have gone fairly well in the chapter. We'll get that in the chapter and officer reports later, but a nice big associate class, a lot of alumni engagement with regard to helping out with that recruitment here over the last year, and fantastic job by the folks, by the brothers, bringing in a new set of associate members into the chapter. So congratulations on that. One of the pieces of business that we'll have later today is a discussion of, and it was introduced by the I guess through Lambda Chi Alpha National. And it's actually a separation of the Housing Corporation from Housing Corporation from an Alumni Association, where the Housing Corporation has specific functions to run the fraternity house, or to run the actual physical house, and the Alumni Association is involved with essentially post-collegiate brotherhood engagement with the chapter. Alpha Delta here, we've really run that as one association in the past, and it's worked pretty well. But national, the national headquarters has encouraged over a couple of engagements chapters who have the sort of arrangement that we do to break that apart into two different organizations. We also have an alumni advisory board. There will be a mix and match of people between those, between those organizations, but they're wholly separate organizations with different charters associated with them. So we have a set of articles of incorporation for 2 different organizations, separate boards of directors. We would like to at least introduce those today. If we would entertain the idea of tabling those for a vote until St. Pat's, if folks would like to have an opportunity to review those more, but we wanted to introduce those today so that we can get the process started of making this transition to a different organization to our Housing Corporation and Alumni Association. You know, the thought here is that the Alumni Association, by formally introducing this post-collegiate, essentially social organization, that it gives us an opportunity to strengthen our communications amongst the alumni, both inboard and outboard, so flow out and flow in, and just another opportunity for folks to engage who want to be involved with the social portion of alumni involvement, but not necessarily I'll call it the day-to-day running of the chapter house. So we'll introduce that later, actually during the board of directors meeting, and have more discussion on that later. For now, I think that is the president's report. I have nothing else.
I think now would be a good time to go around the room.
Oh yeah. Thanks, James. Let's go around the room again. Rob Sutton, Alpha Delta 1158. I live in St. Louis, Missouri.
Zach Bohr, Alpha Delta 1394. I'm in Soulard, St. Louis.
Steve Szymanski, Alpha Delta 788 in Chicago.
James Castle, Alpha Delta 1179, Rolla.
I guess I'll go Kyle Barton, Alpha 1427, from O'Fallon, Missouri, so St. Louis area. Yeah, we just passed them out.
Yeah. Carter Daniels, Alpha Delta 1443, and I'm from Rolla, Missouri.
Todd Martin, I will be the new faculty advisor for the campus, for the chapter, and still working through it. It's just been a few weeks, so I'm happy to join you all.
Welcome.
Robert Wolf, Alpha Delta 1462. I'm from Chesterfield, Missouri.
Jack Duruns, Alpha Delta 1456, and I'm from Fort Worth, Texas.
Dave Newman, Alpha Delta 1465 from Papillion, Nebraska.
I'm Eric Willard. I'm Alpha Delta 1433. I'm from St. Peter's, Missouri.
Tyler Ross, Alpha Delta 1410. I'm in Lebanon, Missouri.
Gene Fanger, Alpha Delta 580 from St. Louis. Len Kerberg, St. Louis. What's my number? 66. Brother, right there.
Chuck Tateman, DePere, Missouri, 608. I'm one of the guys that wouldn't have gotten into the place under the current regime.
John Banninger from Manchester, Missouri, 569.
Duzel, Alpha Delta 1201 from Kansas City.
Jack Bertelsmeyer, Alpha Delta 683, St. Louis.
Todd Monroe, Alpha Delta 1212. I'm from Springfield, Missouri. David Nauman, Alpha Delta 1461, from O'Fallon, Missouri.
Justice Finder, Alpha Delta 1457, St. Louis.
Joseph Kaufman, Alpha Delta 1463, from Fenton, Missouri.
Zach Boledick, associate member, from St. Louis. Brandon Thomas, I'm an associate member from Kirkwood, Missouri.
Caleb Baker, an associate from Missouri, Missouri. Luke Altman, Alpha Delta 1434. I'm from Missouri. Austin Hebert, associate member. I'm from Kansas City.
Drew Bauer, associate member from Missouri. Connor Collier, Alpha Delta 1460. I'm from Manchester, Missouri.
Nathan Big, Alpha Delta 1417, Kansas City, Missouri. Jonathan Perry, Alpha Delta 1424, Holt, Missouri. Nichols, Alpha Delta 1451.
Okay, can you ask any questions?
Jason Hoffman, Alpha
I know,
Delta
it's like, it's something that's, yeah, oh, and then a bunch of this.
Jake Dillard from, Belleville, Illinois, I'm associate. Ashley Brewer, golfer, associate member, St. Louis. Thomas Stefanski, associate member, Maryland Heights, Memphis.
Dylan Neese, associate member. Justin Bond, Alpha Delta 1435 from Springfield, Missouri.
Ryan Ripper, Alpha Delta 1434 from Baldwin, Missouri.
Colin Lunsford, Alpha Delta 1449 from Kansas City, Missouri.
Brad Jones, Alpha Delta 1431 from O'Fallon, Missouri.
Justin Palermo, Alpha Delta 1430 from O'Fallon, Missouri.
Stephen Snell,
Yeah, so that's like 600 hours in there. Yeah, it's like, it's gonna be down one every time.
Josh Johnson, associate member, St. Louis. Jake Matthews, associate member,
Greg Matthews, associate member, Harrisonville.
Ron Sullivan, associate, St. Louis.
Daniel Markowitz, Alpha Delta 1444 from St. Louis.
Eric Linder, associate.
Alex Rubin, Alpha Delta 1408 from St. Louis.
Chase Redfield, Alpha Delta 1403 from St. Louis.
Nicholas Can, Alpha Delta 1468 and Waterloo.
Chris Sheffield, Alpha Delta 1426 from Raleigh.
Okay, thank you, everyone. With all those associate members here, could I ask you all to stand and be recognized, please?
I'd like to see him.
Thank you very much.
Signs the book. Because I did not write all those down.
Right. Okay, moving on, Vice President's report. Steve?
Yeah, I just want to echo the conversation we've had about the Alumni Association. There may be people out there who don't really know what exists today and what's already in place. So as you think about this role and being a leader in this role, I think it's important to know that there has been a lot of work already done by people before you. There are bylaws that have been established. There are what I call ad hoc groups that exist in key areas. So you wouldn't be going it alone. You wouldn't have to create something from the ground up. So as we talk more about the Alumni Association, please be aware that there is already established and a lot of work has been done by other alumni to create an atmosphere of support for this organization. So again, hope that there are people out there who will consider participating.
Thank you, Steve. Secretary's report.
So there are 3 copies of the minutes from St. Pat's over there. They're rather sparse, but if you get a chance to look at them, that'd be great. I think we're supposed to approve them, but so yes. I don't know if people read it, I sent it out last night. At any rate, that's basically it. The minutes are there, and hopefully we'll have them a lot earlier next year in session.
Have people had an opportunity to read the minutes from the St. Pat's meeting? Is there any motion at all?
Motion to accept the minutes from the St. Pat's meeting.
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion?
Let's get this done.
Okay, all those in favor of accepting the minutes, meeting minutes from St. Pat's Housing Corporation minutes, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting minutes passed. Moving into treasurer's report. Zach.
Hi everybody, I'm Zach, if you haven't met me before. I got to clarify a couple of things because one of my columns got cut off when we printed. So we're doing pretty well with the numbers that the house currently has. We're able to bounce up their payments to Housing Corps operations to $90,000 a semester, with payments of $22.50 once a month for 4 months during the school year. And we've already received one payment from them. We haven't adjusted the amount yet, which we're probably going to do after this meeting. We're going to go to the bank and get a couple things figured out on that end. In the new house spending section, we had with all the new members, we had to get some new beds, new desks and chairs, basic amenities that we as a housing corps provide to incoming students and the students who are living at the house. We paid Pennington since July, $4,513, and leftover construction utility bill came in that Len forwarded to me. That was $1,377.50. With all that, year to date, this comes to $14,003.47. The construction loan as is started out at a $3 million loan. We've paid off about $76,000 of that so far. With the payments coming into the house, we will be taking about $80,000 of their $90,000 payment per semester and putting that directly into the mortgage to we're gonna try to pay that off as quickly as possible or get it as low as quickly as possible. Currently, our balances as of sorry, I forgot to adjust the date on that. As of a couple days ago, our operating account is sitting at $87,379. Our reserve account is $38,430. Our Pennington, or the Educational Grant Foundation, $1,906, and our Alpha Delta Zeta Scholarship account is sitting at $156,795, with a total of all of our accounts reaching $284,512. On the pledges side of our the new house pledges, so total we had pledged $2,518,133 from alumni and gifts and all that. We had little over 1.8 million pledged to the foundation and 680,000 pledged to the corporation. Of that, we've received of the 2.5 million, we've received $2.2 million of the pledges that we've collected so far. We have a couple of outstanding ones that we're still waiting to collect on, but I don't know the current of how many brothers owe, but we still are looking at around about $200,000.
So on the alumni giving side, we're down to a few odds and ends with regard to most of the pledges. There's one anonymous gift out there that's a pretty sizable one that hasn't come through yet. There's one fairly sizable acknowledged gift that hasn't come through, and otherwise it's people down to a few $100s in general. So with regard to collecting on the pledges from the capital campaign, we're essentially nearing 100%. As you would expect, we're into we're past essentially the end of the intended original capital campaign period. So I would expect at least those odds and ends to be wrapping up here anytime soon. Any questions with regard to the treasury report?
So Rob, was the total remodel then $5.5 million?
I believe that's correct. I should have written that number down before I came in today. Yeah, it was between 5 and 5.5. Yes. Any other questions? Okay, is there,
Just another couple odds and ends. I set up our online banking account so we can monitor stuff online, just to make it easier. And then I'm also working to digitize a lot of our old records as well and make a complete file system. That'll be a really easy transfer to the next treasurer when that time comes as well.
okay, is there a motion with regard to the treasurer's report and budget?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of accepting the 2018-2019 budget, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay.
Hey, Zach, quick question there. I know we saw, is this the final wrap up, everything from Pennington, everything like that left, or are we still? I didn't know who had the ball of making sure we got everything back from Pennington and I don't know when we close out that contract or whatnot.
Yeah, so we'll actually discuss that in new business. We're at this point in a year with Pennington. Give you a quick glimpse into it. We're right now spending about $5,500 a year with Pennington for alumni relations, maintenance, and then newsletters. 2 newsletters a year going out. That contract renews basically the 1st of January of every year. So new business will be discussing the continuance or not of those contractual relationships with Pennington. And then the repercussions of not doing that with regard to some of the things that the chapter and that the alumni have to take on that Pennington has been taking care of underneath those contracts, basically. Okay. Next report is high, as Scott, whoever's got the online going.
We got the chat behind us.
Oh.
So Scott's here.
Thanks, Ryan.
He's got Preston. Do you want me to just read off what you sent in if you're listening and able to type in?
I would say probably just good.
Okay.
Call him too.
I would just read it off, and then if he has something to say, I'll probably add it in there.
Okay, fair enough.
I appreciate it, Ryan, and you a lot. So.
Okay. So the High report, Scott is obviously not able to attend today. He wanted to hit on just a handful of items. One, thank you to everyone who has volunteered to become part of the Alumni Advisory Board. Yet another opportunity for engagement between the alumni and the undergrads. We have a total of 9 alumni brothers who have taken on a responsibility to on a regular basis engage with an individual officer and try and mentor them through their office and provide some continuity from year to year that the alumni can provide, and that's a little harder to provide as you're turning over officers every year. So just want to read those. Just gonna read them off. A few of them, Scott. The folks who are engaged as part of the Alumni Advisory Board, High Beta, Vince Matucci has taken on that role. High Tau, Dave Heikkinen. High Iota, Andy Singleton. High Rho, Josh Meltner. High Kappa, Steve Puzak. High Delta, Scott Marchetti. High Phi, Scott Dye. High Sigma, Jason George. And House Manager, Todd Monroe. Along those lines, Todd will have a presentation a little later in today's meeting of a tool that he and the House Man have actually been building to help help streamline some of our record keeping and some of our interaction amongst folks. So very good engagement from what I gathered with the Alumni Advisory Board. We do.
It's Scott.
Okay.
I don't think so.
What's that, Scott?
Yeah, this is Rob now.
Yeah, Todd Monroe, is he there by any chance?
Todd's here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay.
Todd Monroe there?
He is, yeah.
Have him come up and talk, so what he does as an ADZ member.
Do you want me to do that now, or do you want me to do that when he gives his presentation?
Well, go ahead and talk about ADZ and how he provided services to the house management Delta over the last 6 months.
Okay.
Kind of what he does on a.
No, you can still use my
All right, guys, so Scott, I really wasn't keyed up till later.
He said, you still haze me.
Okay, I think hopefully the House can echo these sentiments as we continue to go along this journey from an alumni advisory board standpoint. But I think it's good for both sides, right? So it allows the alumni, the ability to have engagement with the House, make sure that they're understanding trials, challenges, et cetera, within the House, and to bridge that gap, right? So there's certain things that we kind of knew how to handle from our years in the House, and when you guys are coming in, we want to make sure that we're setting you guys up to succeed, right? So it's not about telling you thou shalt this, but it's saying, hey guys, this is what we've done in the past. These are the things that you need to be focused on to continue and build a secure posterity for the House, and make sure that you have those tools to set up with. And so some of that is what I'll talk about later with Jack on what we're building. But it's been rewarding for me as well, just to be engaged with the men from a Delta standpoint over the summer, working to help instigate Rush a bit and get along those lines, and then Jack and his previous House manager as well. It's good to see that urgency. And sometimes when an alumni comes in to a St. Pat's meeting or a homecoming meeting, that's not always shining through, right? We're getting together, we're having a good time, and we're having a meeting, trying to make it through that morning, and it doesn't always shine through. But when you are engaged in that level, you do see the intent, the sense of urgency, and the care that really will bond all of us, no matter how old we are, how young we are. So Scott, I hope I did you justice on what you want to see. The other alumni board members, I know a few of them. I think that they would echo my sentiments, and I'm certain that they will do a better job than me.
I'll make a comment on this, Todd. Having been an alumni in some of these meetings for quite a while and stuff like that, one of the things that happens is the same problems happen over and over again over the years. And that's because it's the first, when you're a student, it's your first time doing these things. It's your first time experiencing these potential problems or questions or whatnot. And just simply having an alumni person involved can go, yeah, that bit us 10 years ago. You can help avoid those gotchas, because it is tough. It's much tougher the first time you hold an office, and it just kind of helps us make sure that things go smoothly. It helps you make it smoothly.
Yeah, I think it helps with the House, and then it helps with your careers as well. Taking that next step into an office, or in the workplace, being able to have that. Now, hopefully Jack won't ever have to deal with clay pipes breaking like we did when we were House men, but the theory is the same.
So we'd like to say thank you to all those alumni who have taken on roles as part of the Alumni Advisory Board. The goal is for all the members of the High State to have an AAB member. So we have a few more positions to fill. If anybody's interested in that type of an advisory role, please let Scott know, and if you need his contact information, I'd be happy to pass it on. Two other pieces. We as we were going through introductions earlier today, the new academic advisor, Todd Martin, introduced himself. We'll allow him to speak to us here in a minute with his report. But thank you for engaging with the chat. And then lastly, January 10th through 13th of 2019 will be the 2019 Neville Advisors College and High Alpha Summit in Indianapolis, Indiana. let us know if you have an interest in that summit. I've not been yet. I'm going to try and make it this year. Everything I hear is that it's a good engagement opportunity for alumni and undergrads alike. So that's it for the High report. Yeah, we sort of hit on that, that the AAB, the Alumni Advisory Board, is specifically designed to be just that, an alumni advisory board. So their role is to engage directly with their High Zeta member and to advise them on the execution of their High Zeta role. Whereas the Alumni Association is more of a general alumni engagement organization.
For a proposal to start referring to Brother Preston as Stephen Hawking.
Second that.
I don't think I'm gonna relay that.
Just one more thing. Scott recently got colonel for, that's all I know. But congratulations, Scott. I know you're listening, so we all miss you here. We appreciate everything you do, Scott.
And apparently you have to be a colonel to be the High Pi now. Anyone who is familiar with
it's intense.
Colonel Ed, our advisor when I was here. Okay, so moving on from the High Pi report to Academic Advisor's report.
That's you, Tom.
Yeah. You just didn't know I had to create a report, so I'm creating it as I go. But so I was told I was supposed to talk about my pets. Yeah, how many pets I have. But so I work here at the university and was approached by some alumni that had asked me to join this. We haven't had someone in this role for a little while. And I was very honored to be able to do that. So I'm looking forward to getting to know everyone. Of course, it's gonna take time. You know, I mean, there's a lot of you. So, you know, I look forward to a long journey to be able to be in this role and be able to help you out, point you in the right direction. I've worked in higher education for many years in enrollment management, financial aid, many other capacities that I know where the support can come from. So if there's anything that I can do as time goes on, never hesitate to reach out to me. I don't know, Kyle, if you can like pass my email and contact information on to everyone so that they can reach out to me whenever they need some kind of support. You know, I mean, I think that's why I'm here, because, you know, I'm here to be able to be there to say, okay, you know, here's what you can do. Of course, the alumni are there to mentor you and do all those things, but I'm here more consistently to be able to be a support to you and make sure you're there. My son's a junior here. So he is one of 4 children that I have. Our second son, I think will come here as well. I'm hoping our daughter and our next son comes here as well. So hopefully we'll have 4 minor alumni coming up. But I took this position after consulting with my own business for many years in higher education, because I brought my son on campus, and there's no better university than Missouri S&T. I mean, I was so impressed. I said, you know, I need to work here, and so, you know, this is a nice opportunity for me to be able to engage with you, and I appreciate the opportunity. So to get back to the pets, so we have 4 kids, but we have 3 dogs and a cat as well. So yeah.
What is your position?
So my position is I work in advancement. So I meet with alumni in the Northeast, and so it's actually a nice connection because, I get the chance to meet with alumni that hopefully we can get them more engaged as well if they haven't been with Lambda Chi Alpha. If they're not engaged, I can meet out with them. So I'm also the liaison to mechanical aerospace and engineering management. Alright, any other
Can you
questions?
bring your son over to the house?
Let me work on my second son when he comes in. I know he's a junior and he's living off campus, but I'll give it a shot. I'll try. Yep.
Well, anyway, thanks, Todd. We're happy to have you, so maybe we can clap
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the officer reports. Further High Alpha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kyle. Current High Alpha here right now. So I'll just go over things that we've been doing at the house since St. Pat's. So our recruitment class, I'm sure you all would love to hear about this. We had 29 associate members at the very beginning of the semester. One of them ended up leaving the house. He moved back into the dorm, said it was too much of a time commitment to be here. So we have 28. With that 28, it's still one of the largest we've had ever. It's bigger than one bigger than last year, and biggest. And basically, we have 70 or 69 people living in the house currently. So we are almost at a full house. We can fit a total of 7 more people. The max capacity is 77. And so it's been tight. We've been pushing everyone into as many rooms as we can, but it's been good. We're really close. The goal is no one is actually graduating at the end of this semester. We have a couple people moving out because they've made their 8 semesters in-house. So the goal is to basically, for our spring recruitment, so starting next semester, is to fill the house with those couple of people moving out. So we'll be at the max of 77, hopefully. But yeah, let's give a shout out to Dan Markowitz over there sitting in the back. He's current High Delta, got that 28 that we been using to fill the house. So let's help. Congratulations, Dan. You are better than me. All right. As far as grades go, our academics, we had a 3.074 GPA for our entire active house. With that, we were actually a little bit lower than middle of the pack for fraternities. I want to say it was like 8, between 8 and 10. I can't remember for sure. But so we were lower than a majority or over half of the fraternities on campus with that. Our active GPA was 3.152, and our associate member GPA was, our new member was 2.632. Because of that, we have actually been trying to do a little bit more with our study hours, with our new member program and stuff, to try and help get the associates more involved, to make them want to do a little bit better because their GPA was lower. I feel like we talk about it every semester. We have the Sigma draft that we do. Basically, it's an incentive to try and do better with your grades. Incorporated a couple semesters ago. We are trying to see the actual how much that works over the couple semesters that we've been doing it, if it's actually helping anybody get their GPA higher. I forgot to definitely look up our fall grade again to compare, but I like to think that it's improving. So, also, new faculty advisor again, Todd Martin. We all met him a couple of times here. Maybe we just clap one more time for fun. We just had initiation. We got 4 new members. Their numbers going from Alpha Delta 1473 to Alpha Delta 1476. If any of them are here, maybe you guys stand up and show everyone who you are. There's only 2 of them, but congratulations, guys. You guys are our future right there. All right, so other than that, I have a couple of things that we've been doing around the house over the last couple months. As you can probably see to your left, we started a mural on this wall. I know what you're probably all thinking, where is that signature panel that we had? What we did was basically we documented it, take a picture, and then we started this over it. I would like to defer all questions about the mural off to Brad Jones Carlisle because he, if anybody has any questions about it, feel free to ask him. We can wait until the end, but he is the one that set everything up for this and made it happen. So it won't look like, it'll look a little bit better when it's done. It looks like just brown on the wall. Yeah, he's come over one night, and so that's all we did. We are not painting it ourselves. We have hired a third-party person to do it. We would never be able to paint that well. Also, I posted on Facebook, but you might have seen, we had painted a new coat of arms inside of the bonus room. It looks pretty baller, so it looks pretty neat. Also, we've been working on just adding little things to the house to make it feel a little bit more homey. We've been painting stuff, getting stuff done. We're putting a fire pit in actually, over by the trash area. We're gonna build a fence thing around it so it doesn't look weird. But yeah, no, also we bought a bunch of deck furniture that'll be shipped in. Carter will go over budget things whenever we get to that. Also, recently, I would say like about 3 weeks ago now, we had a fire extinguisher situation. I figured everyone should know about that. Just basically what happened was one of our members discharged a fire extinguisher. The fire department and the police came over. They were very not happy that the fire alarms went off for no reason. And so we had to basically, I met with the people on campus for a couple weeks, and we had basically rewrite our entire risk management plan. Also, one of the problems was that when the extinguishers went off, everyone went outside, and there was basically everyone was just like, the majority of the people except for like 3, I would say, were like kind of drunk. And so it was the fire department and the police were very not happy with that. And so yeah, we had to rewrite our risk management plan and also how we manage underage alcohol or underage drinking at the house. We had to send in a report to campus about that. And so yeah, so that happened. I just want to let everybody know. Other than that, I don't think I have a whole lot. Does anybody have any questions for me? Oh wait.
Question,
yeah.
Earlier you all voted to allow 8 people to move out of the house even though they're in school and active. Is that still the same status for them?
We have 7 out-of-house people. The way that it's been working is that, so the reason we let them out was either financial hardship or they proved that living in a house for them was like not good for like mental health wise, and so that was the reason we let those people out.
You're looking at the front row here, well, as alumni, we were in the house past our quota or anything else you guys have dreamed up. What is it, 6 semesters you can move out of the house?
It's 8. It's after 8.
All of 8. Okay, well we managed to live in the house our whole careers. We're still alumni and proud of that. So I don't know if that moving out of the house promotes the same feeling, but I don't think it does. You can put that in the record.
Yeah, and so with that, I definitely agree. It's not ideal. We don't want people to move out. We'd like everyone to live here for their 8 semesters. With that though, a couple of the people that had moved out of house actually, upon moving out, have done a lot more for the chapter since then. They've gone to the whole position. And I'm not saying that's how it works. I'm not saying that's like a standard or what we're trying to promote. But sometimes it really just isn't for people to live in a house. Like they physically can't do it with the way that they function, and so it is not the worst thing. We've actually, with that, we had for a couple semesters actually before that I took office, there was a group of people that lived in a house and they hated it and they made everybody else hate living in a house. Not hate, but like they made everybody just, basically it brought the morale and the community of the house down and everyone was like not on good terms with each other. Upon them all moving out, the brotherhood and everything that we felt in the house has gone up consistently since then. And like I said, it just goes back to the whole, sometimes it's just not for people to live here. It's not always the best situation. So the people that have moved out have all been mainly due to financial reasons, one person being from the other stuff.
Didn't you just announce you have 2 more people hitting the quota, so they'll probably be moving out?
Oh, yes, okay, sorry, you're right. Yeah, so next semester.
Challenge that.
I mean, unfortunately, they have their contract for the house is up, and I don't know, we just can't do anything about it, so.
I don't think that's the right message.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
We're not forcing, we're not saying 4 semesters, you have to leave. It's they've been at school for, not 4 semesters, sorry, 4 years. They've been at school for 4 years. Their scholarships are basically run out by now. They're pretty much paying, a lot of them, the people I've met who move out, start paying, or they're starting to pay out of pocket. And it's easier and cheaper for them and more fiscally responsible to live in a $400 a month apartment than in a $4,000 a semester house. And a lot of them stay a part of the house and contribute to the house as well.
Yes.
Do they still eat here?
No. You have to pay $1,000 a month.
They can sign, if they live at a house, they can sign up for a food plan at the house, but it's $1,000 a month.
They still come to social
It's
funds?
$1,000 a semester.
Yes, they are still allowed to do that.
Okay, do they contribute anything to the house financially?
If they're active, they pay an active fee of $400, and that gets them able to, that basically allows them to do, do all the socials and everything, that, pretty much all the money goes to officer budget at that point, because it's only 7 people, at $400, so it's not like a substantial amount. But yeah, they're allowed to come over and hang out, and then if you're alumni, you are still, so you're not active, but you're still at school here, you're still allowed to come over and do those things without having to, because you've already fulfilled your obligation of 8 semesters being active.
Kyle, what is your process for determining financial
Hardship?
difficulty or?
Yeah. And so the way it's outlined in our bylaws, I actually don't have them on me currently. But basically, you have to come and show scholarships, loan, how much money you have currently in your bank account, how much you owe, you are in debt if you are, how many loans you've taken out. Yeah, sorry, you bring it to exec, that's my bad. And then exec determines if it's, also you bring all your expenses, so any bills you would pay in the house as opposed to living on an apartment on your own or living with whoever you're gonna live. And so you see the comparison and like how much more strenuous it is to actually live in the house, and then we decide based off of those numbers to if someone should let out or should be let out. There was a couple of people, and this wasn't this semester, I would say last year before we rewrote our housing contract, that got out due to living in, like within 25 miles or something like that. There's a clause that basically if you live within so many miles of the chapter house or of the university, you can just live at home. And so some people got out because of that. I also, really quick, would like to bring up the GPA discussion that was the alumni definitely know about and also brought up to everybody at chapter. We voted on it at the beginning of the semester. But it was brought up that we maybe lower our GPA requirement for initiation to a 2.5 as opposed to a 2.6 to align with nationals. And so with that, the main person that is affected, his name is Dan Cormack. He currently is at community college for the semester, planning on coming back in the spring to rejoin, reassociate, and then go through if he makes grades. So it did get brought up. I brought it up at High Zeta, at our High Zeta retreat, and then I also brought it up at chapter. Both times it did not pass almost unanimously, and the main reason being that it has only affected really one person that didn't go through ever because of it, and that didn't also leave the school. Also, we just decided that we are gonna continue to hold ourselves to the higher standard of a 2.6. There's no need really for us to lower it if if it was like affecting a bunch of people and we felt like it was necessary, we would definitely talk about it more. We'd put a lot more time and discussion into it, more chapter meetings, but it was almost unanimous. Like I said, I think there was maybe one person in the entire chapter that voted to lower it, and so I'm sorry to the people that really were pushing for that, but that's just the way that the active chapter has decided to vote. I mean, does anybody have any discussion on that? Or
Kyle, if your associate grade point is 2.62, and your initiation requirement is 2.6, you're gonna lose a lot of people.
So that 2.632 actually is really low because there were a couple of people, as we have it the last couple of semesters, that just got basically 0 GPAs and left the school. So it is weighed down by about 2 people that just completely dropped all their classes or did nothing and also left their school after that.
Yeah, I've thought through that before in the past, and it takes 3 4.0s. You know, if you had 4 people and you'd have to have 3 4.0s to have a 3.0 average if you have a 0 guy. And we've had a couple of those folks who've had 0 point, you know, they're in what we call the square root club, where the square root of their GPA was higher than their actual GPA. And those are a real challenge to the chapter. And unfortunately, since you look at averages instead of medians, you pick up those outliers in the averages a lot more heavily.
May I request that in the future, we also report the medians on the grades?
Yeah, I can pull it up still, actually.
Yeah, the campus reports are all arithmetic averages, arithmetic means. I wanted to let Mr. Preston or Colonel Preston know that you're on the big screen, so just know that you're commenting is being broadcast to the folks here in the room.
Yeah, he sees it. I'm gonna text him.
Okay.
Anything else?
Anybody
have any other? Yeah.
Did I understand you that you said you're putting a fire pit?
Yeah, that's the idea. I saw you shake your head no, but I guess what's the comments on that, or?
I think that the, I don't think that should be open flame, other than candles, is only right. Fire pits are, who's going to maintain them? Where are you going to put it? Where are you going to put it? It's going to be on the top of the wall of the, on top of the,
the retained wall.
No, they were talking about putting it in the corner.
I don't care where it is, it shouldn't be here. You shouldn't have to have a flame, open flame on this property.
Okay.
Also, before you build the fire pit, definitely check with city fire codes. Because I know we used to burn leaves and we used to.
Yeah.
That was pretty.
Have to get permits for that.
Yeah, you have to get permits, and I don't think you're allowed to have a fire pit within like 20 to 30 feet of a building.
Is George here? We definitely have looked up almost pretty much everything for this, so he's a.
Really quickly, I've been talking, basically, figuring out what like city zoning is and codes are for fire pits. And before like anything would even like be started to be built, we would send out a 3D rendering of like what the actual space would be so that we can see. But they also, if we do want to move forward with it, the city will also come out and do a site inspection just to make sure that everything before it's built is to code. So that's very much planning stage right now.
I'll just second Lynn's comment. It's a risk management nightmare to have a regular fire on campus at the house. I know of too many people that have fallen in fire. It's risk management nightmare.
Yeah.
I think your VOC is going to come down when it's built and bring up you guys hard with it.
Yeah.
Is the purpose to burn trash or to roast hot dogs?
Social function, so yeah, basically to hang out around. So roast hot dogs of those 2.
I think your VOC is going to be hard for that.
I can see that, actually. Yeah. We'll put some more discussion and thought into it, I think, before we actually do it, because we definitely don't want to get in trouble with nationals. So I definitely forgot about that. So
same with the university too.
Yeah.
University may not allow campus housing to have
Most have a lot of houses. They may not be allowed, but
I'd say do follow through with it and recommend some possible bylaw implementation, just kind of like we did when we implemented
maybe
regulations to keep people from getting on the roof or
Yeah.
breaking glass, just make sure that there's definite set penalties for misuse,
Yeah,
so
I
to
think
discourage it.
We'll look into it. All right. So other than that, does anybody else have any questions for me? Does anybody else have any questions for me? All right, seeing none, then going to good old Todd.
Hi, Todd report.
Jack, I'm gonna pull up the budget folder. That budget. Oh wait.
Okay, so we're gonna start on the left in all the green, and then we'll go to the right. So for those of you that are kind of don't quite know what you're looking at, everything in green is our income, basically our member dues and house bills, meal plan, all that kind of stuff. So as Kyle said before, we have 69 people living in the house right now. Our house bill is currently broken down by membership dues, which is $400. The actual like house bill or rent, you can call it, $2,600, and then the meal plan is $1,000, which comes up to $4,000 per person that is living in house. At the start of my term, I implemented a year-long budget, so we've had this same house bill. Oh, go to fall, Jack. We put it on fall tab. Yeah. So anyway, so I've tried to make it so that house bills and the amount thereof will be reviewed every year with both the old alpha and new alpha, old tall and new tall. It gets more eyes on it, and it also allows our members to know what they're going to be paying for that whole entire upcoming year, rather than in the spring it may be one thing, and then during the summer we tell all our associates one thing, and then we get here to the fall and we have to change the number. So that kind of gives some transparency across the board to everyone, so that value will be reevaluated at the end of this term, basically this winter. Out-of-house members, they pay the $400 membership fee, and included in that is, or part of what we'll be looking at this December is to be including some type of parlor fee. What that is whenever the ELC came down for nationals, he thought that if you were out of house, you should be paying a little bit to be using the facilities here, which I kind of agree with. We already had the budget planned and situated, but we will be looking into adding some sort of basically a parlor fee to be using the house in that sort of way. So I kind of came up earlier, so I wanted to mention that. So this yellow box is, I'm going to take out this difference column because it's kind of confusing. But estimated is basically everything we have budgeted, income and expenses, and actual is like our to-date numbers. So we're going to scroll over to this right side with all the red. Jeff, if you could scroll it over. Sorry. Oh, yeah, you can. Okay, so this top portion is our officer budgets. It basically goes down in order. If you have any questions about any projects they may have, or why is this one a lot more? Sorry. Yes, keep it on phone. I can let you know. I'll kind of run through pretty fast. Beta, his big thing is our Parents' Day. So a lot of his budget goes towards that. Theta is Chicky Bee and philanthropy events, basically set up any sort of anyway, Gamma, his big thing is our composite, so a lot of his budget goes towards that. TAW, what's now included in my budget is last spring we implemented using Legacy Financial. So that's a third-party, basically online payment system that's been approved by nationals. They're actually partnered together. We decided to implement that to, one, bring everyone like an online way to pay their house bills, as well as instant feedback of any charges that are added to their accounts, anything like that. So part of my budget is going into paying a per person fee for that software. C, row, so kind of what you see today. Any sort of publicity, anything on the alumni side. The food today, he's actually planning to furnish the kind of corner room down there in the corner. We're looking to getting in some bookcases that we can hold all our old yearbooks and stuff like that. So that's what he's using part of that for. Kappa, any fraternity education stuff that may come up throughout the semester. Delta is recruitment. Hi-Fi, any anything that pertains to any rituals or anything like that you may need to purchase. Epsilon is our social chair, so that's any social aspects that may need to be bought. We're currently trying to furnish this room with like lights and equipment and stuff like that, so that's what he's using that kind of money for. House manager, basically upkeep of the house, any supplies that he may need, anything like that. Games chair, Greek week, so that's food. We kind of bought a couple little extra, like a pop-up tent and stuff like that we can use for tons of different things across the board. And then our formal action committee, that's basically our formal for this fall. I'm actually the formal action guy, so I'm actually looking into this. So this is basically to help subsidize some of the costs per member. So when we go and do a big formal somewhere, everyone's not paying $300 out of pocket. This kind of improves, one, the attendance of people showing up, and two, it allows us to kind of go and do more. So that is that. Under net, is there any question about officer budgets? Okay, go ahead, Tias.
Yeah, it looks like our Delta spent more than twice his budget.
So I will go to, can you go to the
Explanation, I
overview?
just want to
Yeah. So I've not figured okay, now let's go over the Delta. So the overview is basically to the year.
Okay.
And the way it's set up is I have it set up by a date. So sometime in May, it cuts off and puts everything in the spring, and then the rest goes to fall.
Yeah.
So a lot of the summer stuff got pushed to the fall. So that's his actual budget. He's actually under budget.
Okay.
But it just looks funky, and I'm gonna change up that date in the future, but that's where that came from. Yeah. Yes.
In your budget, how many folks in the house with your new collection agency how many people owe money to the house? How many delinquents?
One person. Currently, everyone that is in-house is either completely paid up or has some sort of payment plan set out with me for whether it be each week they pay a little bit. But everyone living in-house is completely paid up. They completely paid up or has some sort of payment plan set out with me. Currently, we only have one basically delinquent brother, and that's kind of a challenge that I want to do and get situated before the end of my term. Me and Kyle are actually going to kind of sit down and see what we can do with that, but that's a much better number than it was last spring. We had right around 15,000 due at the beginning of spring, and now we're down to about 1,200. So we're in a much better shape than we were beginning of around January. So
also with that one person, he owes about 1,200. He is on financial suspension, so he's not allowed at the chapter house, allowed to do anything until he pays us up. And he does live in Rolla, so we've tried to contact him. He has not gotten back to us. And since this new sophomore, we are able to take him legally take actions now that we've had this.
Works.
So yeah, we will get the money. Yeah.
So just an extension on the comment about the Delta's budget. So personally, I would encourage you to look at that, right? So that's your best ROI from a house perspective. So
yeah,
you might look at your rest of your budget and say, you know what, this house, we need to make sure that we're consistently growing. I like to see where we continue to have 28, 30 members coming in every year, so that you are allowing people to come out that's not necessarily concerned, because we're filling this house and we're ensuring posterity. You're getting new brothers, right? So every one of those things adds up to that's your ROI. So I don't have a problem with spending every bit of your budget. I wouldn't want to see a Delta budget come in under budget.
Yeah.
So you might look at how you're spending against those other things and then reallocate. That's really the answer for most of the situations here. That allows these guys to help pay off the mortgage that much faster.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And with the 28 that we had though, we were able to up our payments to Housing Corps, and every year that we get a bigger class, we will leave it up those until we pay this off, and it'll go quicker every single fall.
So that's officer budgets. Any other questions on that one? All right, I'm gonna keep going. So national dues. A big part of what we pay to nationals is estimated at the beginning of the semester, we were estimated to pay about 14,000 with how many people we had. The breakdown's there. Each active pays a certain amount per person. associates are a little bit more because they kind of get like a welcome box, so theirs is a little bit high throughout the year. That reduces that per member. Certain programs online about alcohol management, that's all through nationals. There's a couple other little programs that we can do just as a house to help lower that insurance number, and that's really helped in one, saving us a lot of money. So as you can see, we are completely paid up with nationals, and we came in about half under budget. So that's very good. Kudos to everyone that filled all those forms out, everything like that. So that's where the difference in those two numbers come from. So Housing Corporation, that number's not updated. As of now, we do, like Zach said before, 4 payments. We're gonna be increasing that just a little bit to the 90,000. Campus and IFC dues, that's basically to be a part of IFC, each per person, we pay a little bit. And then a reserve fee is basically the amount of money that I take and put into our savings account. That's $5 a member per month, and that's just to help if something were to go crazy, then we have that little nest egg that we can dig into if we absolutely needed to. It's not been touched in a couple semesters, but it's there if something were to go bad. Okay, so then down we go. I'm not going to go completely through all these, but this is basically through all of our utilities. Our big ones, obviously, our chef. It's $1,000 per member, and there's a split up to 9 payments. I think that's 2 of them, or 11, whatever. There's a amount of payments. So that's where we're at with those. They've increased a little bit since last spring as we realize we're pulling a little more power now with the bigger house. We're pulling a little more water, electricity, and all that kind of stuff. So I increased those a little bit to this from last fall to this spring. So they may be a little higher than ones remembered. Then our miscellaneous, this is just kind of line items that we as a chapter decided that we wanted to take on. So summer expenses, that's basically where our utilities over the summer is put. GA, STED, and Conclave, I think that actually is pushed to spring. But basically that's an amount to send our delegates and stuff to GA and STEDs, and the payments for that. We pay for our IFC and St. Pat's jacket, and then our contingency is basically any miscellaneous stuff. We've had a lot of little miscellaneous stuff so far this semester, as you can see, but I'm not concerned whatsoever. It's just kind of stuff that wasn't thought of. So I'm not too worried about that. And then our 3 big projects that Kyle mentioned earlier in his report is we're doing the mural. We've paid basically his upfront fee as well as all of his starting supplies. So that's his first payment of that. The fire pit, basically all we've done so far is to get the wood for the fence that's going around the trash cans and stuff. And that's not really part of the fire pit, but it's more of a aesthetic thing. And then our deck furniture, about 2/3 of it is Charbot. Should be on its way shipping here. And that's our big 3 projects that we decided as a chapter we wanted to take on this summer, or take on this fall. All right, are there any questions?
Scott had a few comments.
I can say, okay. Yeah, okay. So as Scott says, the insurance actually starts at 212, not 112. So you guys can read out later this. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
we do very well with our risk management assessment. Yeah, we save a lot of money. We pay like $60 a person as opposed to 212. So
yeah, and per person that adds up, as you can see.
Oh wait, yeah, I saw that.
You reiterated what.
Yeah, they did. Yes.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions?
All right. I'm just gonna hand this over to Roe because he's up next. Yeah. All right. Sorry.
All right. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet after a nice long, interesting look at our finances.
Right, it says right there.
Yeah.
insurance is not covered.
Yeah, we just pointed that out.
Alright.
Yeah, we just pointed that out.
He seconded Lenny's comments.
He did.
It is something, we will look into the fire pit if, and all that. We'll definitely talk more about it. We'll keep you
Let's
updated.
make a candle.
Giant piece of
Big
wax.
old candle. It's a nice plate full of tea.
You know, the wax just make a good fun.
Wax party.
Go ahead.
Alright, well, I just wanted to say thank you to all the alumni that came out today. We always love to see everybody staying involved and staying active in the chapter, even well beyond your graduation, so that's always great to see. The Historia, which is the room over here that Carter sort of touched on, we're making lots of progress on that. So I'm working on digitizing all the composites we have, and we're gonna put those up on the website so you can go ahead and see those from wherever you are through the internet. And once we're done with that, we're gonna see if anybody would like to come and take some of these composites, because we have a huge amount and we can't hang them all up. So if you'd be interested in taking home one of your composites, we can talk about that.
The library will archive them for you. We have a lot of library archives.
Oh, I didn't know that. Alright,
I
so
think the 50s.
I will talk to the library then. Other than that, the live stream is still a work in progress. It's good to, I think it's great that Scott's able to check in on these meetings, even being from DC, so we'll continue to do that. After the meeting, we do have lunch. We'll have burgers and fries and hot dogs available, so be sure to grab some of those. And if you haven't signed in at the table over here, we have the sign-in book, so make sure you sign in over there. And then we also have a bunch of extra yearbooks, so if you're interested in picking up a yearbook from campus, you're welcome to take one home. Any questions? Yes?
Yeah, can I get your email address? I have a link for all the pictures from last year from homecoming.
Oh.
I want you to send out to the
Yeah.
alumni so that they can
Absolutely.
see them.
Okay. So I'll get you my
Email address or your phone number so I can text it to you or
Yeah,
email you.
okay.
It's a Google Doc.
Okay.
So in other words,
Any other questions?
I'll update our Google storage because you just sent a terabyte.
Well, no, it's actually all on Lucky's. So you just look at his, it's all stored on his.
Are you the alumni correspondent then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what's your name?
My name's Robert Wolf.
Okay.
So I'm the one that sends you all the emails.
That's me one.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Seeing none, house manager report?
Hi, I'm Jack DeRuns, and Kyle kind of hit on what I was mostly going to talk about, like the projects going around the house that we're doing as like a house together. Some stuff that I'm doing, just kind of in the background, is duty-wise. In my committee, I created 4 new positions called duty checkers, so that people are held more accountable for their duties and stuff, so the house is a little bit more clean than it usually is. Also, something else I'm working on is in half the house, the locks are different than the other locks for like all the rooms in the house. So I'm looking at getting a locksmith to come in and replace the locks, at least on one side of the house, because for the fire department and like the police department, they have like a little lockbox right outside the party room, and they need to have one key so that they don't come in and bash our windows if there's ever like a fire or anything that happens here. So I've been working on that. Todd and I are going to go over later our app idea that we've been working on. It's pretty cool, and I think it's mostly made for just like house manager right now, but I think it could be used for pretty much any position in the house, or it could be used for any purpose. So we'll talk about that later, and that's pretty much it. Any questions?
You might want to consider the best BEST lock system. That's got puts in locks with a hierarchy of keys, so you can,
I suggest
But
that,
that we can't.
what?
I suggest that you get in with the, work and, our contract, correct?
Mhm.
You know, Dan.
Conway.
Yeah.
Get involved with him.
Will do. Any other questions?
Yeah, you just pass that back.
Oh.
Okay, no other questions for the house manager. Move into committee reports. Anything from the executive committee? Don't believe we have a house committee report. Finance committee. Anything from the scholarship committee? No. Volunteer giving committee? Okay, seeing none, we have no old business, so we'll move into new business. I'm actually going to shift the presentation that Todd has up to the beginning of this, because I think it'll be good for the largest group of folks to see this new house manager. Well, it's more than just a house manager tool, but that's where they're beginning. So if Todd and John, if you guys are ready, I'd say let's move Todd's presentation up to now.
Yep, that works.
The mic.
Can you hear me well enough without the mic?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't want to trip and fall on my face in front of everybody. So, he'll pull this up, and I promise you that you, especially the alumni, you didn't drive all this way to get PowerPoint down. But I did want to just kind of outline what it is that we're talking about, what we're looking to build, and then I'll get into kind of showing you what we've done so far. And it's basically, I've worked in maintenance since I got out of school here in varying forms and fashions. And across the industry, I kind of see this as the way of the future as far as digitizing the information in the house. So it was applied here to this house. It would be anything type of warranty, your equipment itself, from Jack's perspective, what should be done on certain frequencies from a PN perspective, as well as how to troubleshoot. And so that we have that for posterity, between housemen, between actives that comes through the house, knowing how to react to issues that happen from a houseman perspective. But also, what I'll show you here in a moment is what we're building is an ability to have that stuff as a central repository with ease of access. You can access it on your phone, you can access it through the internet. Also have critical contact information, et cetera. I'll show a little bit more there. But that's kind of the mentality I had when Scott first asked me to help support on the Alumni Advisory Board. I said, well, I can do a houseman, I can do some other things. So he set me up with the houseman to start with. And I said, you know what, I'm pushing this and all my other industry, why can't we do something similar at Lambda Chi? And so really what we're trying to do here is, as I mentioned earlier, from an alumni perspective, setting these folks up to succeed, right? So making sure that where we can, we give them tools to succeed and build upon this house and the future. So go ahead, Jack, you can step through. So what I wanted to do here, and the reason I put some slides together was just to kind of frame, so I didn't jump right into the website and completely lose everybody. So I saw this quote from Steve Jobs. I thought this was applicable as well. It says, technology is nothing. What's important is that you have a faith in people, that they're basically good and smart, and if you give them tools, they'll do wonderful things with them. And so really that's what this is all about, is having faith in our active brothers here to take advantage of technology to keep things and how we should be doing things in the house consistent from now through years on end. And I've witnessed, as I've supported the house from my time as an associate, or an active, and then into alumni, sometimes there's drop-off periods, there's ebbs and flows on strength of awareness, knowledge, etc. And so if we can build something that stands the test of time, that will help out quite a bit. So in other words, we don't have to have Scott Preston's, Robbie Sutton's engaging and telling these guys, hey, this is how it's supposed to be done. Why have you forgotten? And trying to answer those questions. Let's just have it listed and able to be updated and referenced as necessary. So Jack, go ahead. And so what we wanted to build was, go ahead and cycle through this. I didn't realize I had segues in there. Keep going. Yeah, keep going. I didn't realize this was a template. So, property management, budgets, goals, instructional needs are all things that I think that we can house in this application. I started having this idea, and then I had an associate brother that does this stuff for a living. So in my line of work, I employ these apps for clients from a maintenance perspective, and my associate brother actually does this stuff, and he creates it. And so I said, hey, Rick, let's put something together here. I can't promise you any money right now, but I think we can build something for the house, and it may turn into something that may steamroll later. So he said, okay, we'll get into it. So he built it in his basement for us. So basically what I wanted to do was to facilitate the chapter, kind of talk through all that already, and then develop and utilize an online mechanism of retaining critical asset data, warranty maintenance info, critical contact lists. So in other words, somebody builds a fire pit and someone falls into it and gets burned, who do they call right away, right? So they can find that information quickly. Performance tracking metrics, et cetera, with ease of access and retention. So go ahead, Jack, go to the next one. I think right now, just let's go into the website itself. Okay. And I'm going to let Jack talk here in a minute. I'm not going to monopolize this thing. So what we did, this is just a mock-up, and we're still kind of in infant stages of building this out. But what we wanted to do is have something that was value-added for everybody. And so at the start, we'll have a picture of the house, something like that. We'll probably have some layers of access as far as if there's certain things that we only want officers to see or we only want active to see versus associates, et cetera. But right off the bat, that would have been a nice cue to have when I was an associate instead of always having to go to the bathroom to refresh on my creed. I could just look at it. Have that on there, and Jack, go ahead and scroll down a bit. The other thing that would appear on your home screen when you first pulled it up on your phone, et cetera, is that critical contact list. So Lynn Kerber mentioned the contractor earlier. He's up there now, as well as plumbing people, Rich Rhodes, Steve Cook for HVAC, University Police for all the police department, et cetera. So all of these things, if you're in the house and something happens, you should have an ability to quickly find out who you need to call and how to do so. I mentioned when I was talking earlier to James, clay pipes breaking. Like I said, hopefully Jack will not be faced with a lot of infrastructure breakdown like we had to deal with before this house was renovated, but it is nice to have this information. I've had to deal with emergencies like that when I was a houseman here, and it took me a little more work to find out, who I needed to call and how to get it situated. So this is kind of how it's built out. So Jack, can you go up to the upper left on that button there? And so as Jack mentioned, we started this out from a houseman perspective. I think this applies in a lot of ways. I talked to Danson over the summer. I think we can lay out exactly from a Delta standpoint what our expectations are, timelines, things that should be done throughout the year. So you're not waiting until June 1st to start getting ready for your fall rush, right? You should be starting that January 1st, these are the things to do, December 1st, et cetera, and then common methods of doing so.
So this is an electronic version of the officer files in a lot of ways?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. And so what we created to start with from a houseman perspective was a surveys. So Jack had talked about setting up some duty checkers. I'm not quite sold on the name for that, but I tell you what, if you don't, I can go ahead. We set up kind of mock checks for different areas of the house. And so that it might be bathrooms, it might be kitchen janitorial, it might be floors, it might be
No, we're past that.
I just wanted to show you a little bit of what is available. And so what we don't want to do necessarily, and Jack and I have talked about this, is make this too cumbersome, right? It's got to be a value-added tool. So there's a balancing act there between having too much busy work and then doing things that are actually going to be good for the chapter. And so the chapter, what Rick Willis and I wanted to do was get this tool in place for them, give them some ideas and guidance on what could be in there, and then have them with the ability to start loading them in. Is it not taking your login for some reason? If I could log in later if we need to, but basically there's just some quick checks. So for instance, if we were going to check a bathroom, we can specify exactly which bathroom it was and whether certain things were done. It's like maybe 5 questions, yes, no, and then corrective actions if necessary. And so if he has his committee checking on things, he can oversee whether it's been done and then issue out items to the appropriate tasked people with the houseman. And as a houseman, I know that sometimes I had to deal with personnel, bring them before exec, et cetera. This type of thing, while I don't think it should be the clear expectation at the start, it does give you some history should you need it. So this is just an example of the quick So these would be like quick little push buttons or selections for the questions that come up in your different surveys. You can build that for whatever you want. Go to those three buttons at the top again, and then go down to Explore. At the bottom.
There you go.
So we set it up with the ability for the house to enter in wherever they want. So for instance, where we'll start, Jack is his team now starting to gather specific equipment information, whether that's manufacturer, serial, warranty info, et cetera. Go ahead and click on it, hit the magnifying glass. So we entered in an example piece of test equipment here. So click on that. I don't want to take too much of you guys' time. I just wanted to show you a little bit of what we're building. And so you have the ability to enter in specific information on the equipment, any standard maintenance that applies, any troubleshooting guides, et cetera, as well as upload attachments. So like I mentioned before, the warranty information. So these are things that I think would be very valuable for the house to have. So then just take this mindset for, say, a HVAC unit, and then apply it to the rest of the offices in the house. There's going to be things that they can utilize it for, whether it's a Sigma, a Kappa, Delta, et cetera. But again, I'm not saying this is how you should do it, because there's going to be a balancing act between busy work and what is actually vital to the house. And so we want you guys to take this and build it. So Jack and his team are starting to do that, and I'm hoping to have an update again on the status in St. Pat's for what it looks like at that point. Just another quick thing. So like I said, Rick Willis, I can't say his name enough, because basically I do this a lot at work too. I say, hey, I've got an idea, and then somebody else will get it done for me. And, I'm riding on their shoulders. So same thing with him, and this was built in his basement. So whether this actual format is the tool that is utilized going forward or not, it doesn't really matter. If we can have this kind of thing built, we can put it into a different app or maybe something that turns out to be more sustainable going forward. But at least we've got it captured, repository, and then we can flood it into something else. So Jack, I promised I was going to let you talk, so I forgot.
I mean, pretty much hit every point. I mean, this is kind of like, it's kind of like what I started doing, but it's just a lot more organized since it's all in one place. And I think that's one of the things some offices here could improve on, is just like organization in general. And having something like this would dramatically improve organization all around the house.
I think one other thing, I mentioned a little, just briefly, this to the ELC, and he was very excited, but I was not ready to show it to him yet, and plus Rick wasn't there with me, so I wanted to make sure that he was represented well. But I think this is something that could take off from a national standpoint, as well as other fraternities as well. It could be a flagship in that regard.
Would you be opposed to open sourcing this? Because I know there are a bunch of computer science students here at the school that could probably work on it, and it would look good for them if they had a contribution to a project for employers to look at. And I feel like that would help this get done a lot faster than if you just had one person working on it.
Sure, I personally do not have a problem with it, and we absolutely welcomed any comp sci's here. So we had a meeting a couple weeks ago with 3 comp sci's from in the house with Jack and myself. So I'm absolutely okay with that. Before I say yes, just because I want to take care of Rick too,
right,
let's just have that conversation with Rick.
Sure, sounds good.
And build it out. But that was his intent as well. He said, hey, we've got the skeleton built, let's see what we can do with it.
Thank you.
What does it cost?
Well, right now it's free, because he's a brother. And so I said, I can't promise you any money right now, can you help me out? And that's what he's doing.
Will you be against putting this on MyVicHighMST.com webpage?
Link to this?
Or just storing it on our server in the first place?
It'll probably require a different build out. And I'm not a
Is it
software
what
developer.
framework?
Yeah, why don't we take detailed questions offline?
That probably applies to the other earlier question as well.
Yeah.
That could be the right one.
Once it's open source, you can just deploy it anywhere.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Ed.
Nice job.
It looks awesome.
Okay, moving on to new business. We have a couple of items that are on the agenda. One is the election of new committee members or committee members anyway.
Hey, Rob, just a general question here. I honestly don't know when we elect people for housing board, whether it's the spring or the fall or whatnot. I just copy the same agenda every single meeting. So it may be that that's an agenda for St. Pat's, I don't know.
It is, generally the elections occur in the fall at the homecoming meeting. So both directors and the committee members. So from a House committee perspective, let's see, the House committee that has been in place, and Kurt said he was stepping down, right? So I think that's what he told me last year. So the House committee has been myself, Scott Green, and John Banninger. I'd like to open the floor for nominations for both the head of the House committee and then any other nominations for House committee. Yeah, so the House committee basically they're the most intimate engagement with decision making on the House. So
we'll bring it up at like discussion. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just, okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Oh, fair enough. Okay. Apparently, I didn't read my own notes. So we should be good on the committees. So actually, we move into those are appointments rather than elections. So, but we do need to elect directors. Those whose director term is up. Let's see, this year. So how does this read? This is
I don't know. I didn't copy it. There was no electronic system when I took over this position.
So it will be the 2016. So directors are every 3 years. The directors, the oldest set of, or most, the furthest out set of directors were Scott Bartlesmeyer and Joe Hoff. I guess I'd like to open the floor for nomination for directors for a 3-year term that would go through 2021 homecoming.
I nominate Tyler Haas.
What is the position? I'm sorry?
It is director.
Yeah, what's it do?
So directors vote on, they're the decision-making arm for either the Housing Corporation or the Alumni Association. In this case, we only have Housing Corporation at this point, which takes on both those roles. So when decisions are made about spending with regard to the House, with regard to basically they're the decision makers for the Housing Corporation.
I'll accept.
Any other nominations?
I also nominate State Crutchfield. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Not yet, Scott.
What's your name?
Tyler Haas, H-A-A-S.
2 A's. Okay. We need 3 at least, because Ryan Miller's stepping down, Robbie.
Okay. I nominate Alex Ruman. You're the only other. Everyone else is on it. You're the only one here.
And I don't know if he would. I don't know if he would accept. He's not here, but I would nominate Scott Bartlesmeyer for director position. I mean, he's technically going off as a director. Scott generally is engaged with the corporation, so I would nominate Scott Bartlesmeyer.
Let's assume he accepts.
Okay, so we have nominations for the directors whose 3-year term beginning today would be Tyler Haas, State Crutchfield, and Scott Bartlesmeyer. Because you're going to have. So what Scott's saying there is we're gonna have separate board of directors for the Housing Corporation and for the Alumni Association. So, my only thought, Scott, is that we're not, people, I don't know that people have actually read the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws, so I'm anticipating a motion to table those today. So I would entertain that, that we need to probably get our board of directors in place, and then we can make those changes, once we've gone through the changes. Okay, so, any discussion, with regard to, the three individuals that were named? The way the bylaw is written, Scott, there is an option for additional board of directors on top of the executive committee. So that's a point of discussion within with regard to the new Articles of Incorporation and bylaws. Okay, let's move on. So we have a motion and a second to accept these in my acclamation. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
You said you'd say aye.
That's best by aye.
They didn't say that, they said R.
Okay, Brother Fanger has a piece of new business.
Yes, I have a presentation to make. For many of you young guys, the guys in the front row here, we've had many years of going down Lake of the Ozarks. I think the next one, Jackman, was it 44th year. We used to go from Lake of the Ozarks back to Table Rock. And we play golf, and we used to fish. And we had one fishing boat. This was the roving trophy that we had. And it got retired a few years ago. And I've added a plaque to the back. Then you recognize it. You won this in '08. And I'm on the third place in '08. It's a Lambert Chi trophy. And I'm going to read the new plaque on the back that you haven't seen. It reads, retired and presented to Len Kerber on this annual corporation meeting, October 13th, 2018. This recognized Len's dedication as House Corporation President with these many hours of service to Alpha Delta during the building of the chapter house. Len, we love you. God's blessing from the Brothers of Alpha Delta. See the new, I don't have a house big enough. You have to now, or else you can throw it away. Thank you, Lenny. Love you.
Okay, for general new business, that's all we have on the docket. So we have some announcements, and for the directors, I'd like the directors to stay after.
Scott wanted to talk about the alcohol.
Yeah, so a couple of announcements. So a couple of announcements. First announcement is alumni. If you'd like to make a donation to the chicken benefit dinner, we'll pass the hat. Maybe better than spittoon, I don't know. Feel free to make a contribution if you wish. The chicken benefit dinner is what in its what year now?
58th, I think. I think it's 58th annual, so.
With a charitable giving in the.
So we usually give the money to both Russell House and Gingerbread House. We might give some of it to Feeding America this year. So we're up in the air still because we are nationally partnered with Feeding America. So it would look better nationally wise if we give it there. So.
Our goal is $4,000.
Oh yeah, our goal is $10,000 this year. We're gonna do a lot more advertising around campus. We are gonna get there. I know. Well, I mean, it's over 2 times what we made last year. But we'll. The idea is we make a lot more than we have. I think George's goal is actually $8,000, but he's been saying 10, so that if we make 8, it's still really good.
Make sure that.
Yeah. Oh, we will.
Okay, the other.
Just put that to the side or give it to Stephen Alex.
Yeah. So the other announcement is with regard to some new legislation that was discussed at General Assembly.
Yeah, I can.
And I'll hand the mic off to Kyle to explain that legislation.
Alrighty, so at General Assembly this last year, it got brought up to basically ban alcohol-free housing was the motion that was brought up. It basically got lowered to nothing above 40 proof, so 20% is allowed in the chapter houses starting September 2019, so starting next fall. With that, one of the main reasons that they did this, they were like, nationally, it was brought up that we are a fraternity, we were the first people to abolish hazing, we were the first people to do so many things, so we wanted to stay ahead of the curve and do all this. So we lowered it to 20% like 2 weeks after that, or like, like a couple months after that, so like last month. It nationally, so the North American Interfraternity Conference, NIC, put a rule on all of their fraternities, which we are not a part of technically, that none of their chapters are allowed to have anything above 15% alcohol in their chapter house, basically. So there's no mixed drinks because you can't prove anything is less than 15% at that point. And so it's basically like wine, beer, or whatever. You can only have those things in your chapter house. That's something that'll probably, at our next General Assembly, I am almost positive that we're gonna go, if not alcohol-free, like pretty close to alcohol-free housing. Because like we're gonna try and take what, our idea was that we are gonna try and just stay with North American Interfraternity Conference with our rules, and now that they've lowered it less than us, I guarantee we're gonna be like, oh, we are still ahead of the curve, we're gonna go ahead and alcohol-free housing it. So I guess I don't really know a whole lot about, so Scott's saying the same thing. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's not really affecting us right now, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I was our delegate at the 56th General Assembly in 2016 when the original alcohol bill was tabled from.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to George, who was at the 2018 Assembly. The Nationals and some of our alumni board have been pushing very strongly for the alcohol-free housing, mostly to help with insurance, make it simpler and cheaper. But there's a huge pushback from the undergraduate assembly, which is 2/3 of the General Assembly is required to be undergraduates, and they really don't want it. So I don't see it happening too quickly, the full dry, unless they sneak it in with rejoining the NIC possibly, but
we will not.
I don't see us going dry anytime in the next decade.
In two items along those lines, Scott and I sat in on the campus alumni and Greek advisor engagement meeting yesterday afternoon, and the universities. I think the universities. It appears as though their position is they would love to see it happen, but they're not mandating it from inside. So there is no specific policy from a campus perspective with regard to this. So it's a decision to be made at this point at the level of the chapter. I think that's the way I heard the discussion.
Yeah.
And one of the I wasn't actually physically at the meeting. I was attending via telephone. One of the people brought up, well, what about people who are of age, 20, 21 years old? How does because there was some discussion. Some chapters are actually looking at going fully alcohol free. just hard alcohol free, but fully alcohol free. There's, I'm sure going to be lots and lots of discussion along these lines, but at least from a Lambda Chi Alpha perspective, we do have this mandate now with regard to specifically to to higher alcohol content beverages. So
yeah, fall 2019, 20%.
I'm totally in favor of that. I just don't like the concept of a completely dry alcohol-free housing. It seems unrealistic, and I don't want to start. I guess the standpoint I had when I was at the General Assembly that I voiced, I don't want to start a habit of lying to your nationals and hiding things. I like the open line of communication, the honesty.
Honestly, it's a lot of insurance reasons. It's almost it's purely based on insurance, and at some point in the next 10, 20 years, it's going to be alcohol free anyway. It's going that way. I would say 10 is a stretch. Honestly, it's going to go that way soon. So.
Yeah, I think it was the advisor or the housing corporation president from SIGA commented that they are technically dry. Yeah. And that as part of their walkthrough at the end of the semester for the housing corporation, when they're looking for damage, they also are looking for alcohol as part of that walkthrough. But again, we're not going that far. We're just following we'll have to follow the direction of the national headquarters, and then also what our insurance says.
Yeah. On a more positive note about it, SIGUP, they are dry in common areas. However, their recruitment was crazy this year. They got a ton of people, like more than I've ever seen any house get on this campus. So they thought that being dry was going to affect that, and I'm not sure if they showed a great recruitment share or if the fact that they are dry helped them out a lot.
Have they had parties this year?
No.
Okay. I was wondering if
they can't have anything in common areas like that. So no, they've been strictly abiding by it. They in their rooms they're allowed to have stuff. Currently, the way that their things written, like in the private areas, like the rooms, which is common areas, they're not allowed to have anything above 15 or actually any alcohol. But anyway, no, it helped their recruitment out. So that is potentially a benefit from this happening in the next couple of years.
And the irony is with regard to that is the one time that I've actually seen us have an ambulance here to send somebody to the hospital was when a brother's friend was sitting and drinking in his room, and we weren't able to keep an eye on him to stop them when they were going too far.
I think it's going to encourage off-campus drinking. That isn't.
So we just want to pass on that information. That's a piece of information that we've gotten both from an NIC perspective, from the campus.
Yeah, dry housing is something.
Okay. Any other new business for the full assembly? Okay, seeing none. We'll have a board of directors meeting right after this. Folks are welcome to stay, but as far as voting goes, so the whole set of board of directors are essentially the alumni officers here. Me, Zach, Steve, James, and then the full slate of directors are Lynn, that are in attendance here today. Well, I'll just read through the whole thing. Lynn Kerberg, Pete Lexton, Scott Preston, Jason Randazzo, Larry Thomas, John Vaninger, Gene Fanger, Chuck Tateman, Jack Bertelsmeyer, Scott Green, Troy Williams, Todd Monroe, Josh Hemphill, and then the three that we elected today, State Crutchfield, Tyler Haas, and Scott Bertelsmeyer. You are other folks are welcome to sit in on the discussion, but as far as voting, this is a matter for the board of directors. That certainly answers your question with regard to what is the board of directors.
Hey Rob, are you going to briefly touch on the splitting of the Alumni Association and Housing Corps?
I intended to do that at the beginning of the meeting, but if there's well,
You tabled because of
I haven't I suggested that folks may suggest it. I have not, but, so let's get into the board of directors meeting and then we can have this discussion. Are there, is there any other new business for the full housing corporation for the full meeting?
Oh, I totally forgot about that. So actually, yeah, so one thing that Lambda Chi Alpha nationally has started doing is we do a core report every year. So we used to submit just a harm reduction assessment basically. And now we do what's called a core report. It's CORE, it stands for something, I can't remember off the top of my head. And so basically what that, it encompasses all harm reduction. It also encompasses everything you do as a chapter. So your philanthropy, your recruitment, your retention, your CAPA, all that kind of stuff. And so we won an award this year at General Assembly. It was called the Tozer Brown Award for Philanthropy because of the money that we made at Chicopee last year. So we made a little bit over $4,000, so it was great, guys.
I don't know how it is today, but back when we were undergrads, Tozer Brown Award was a major national award.
Yeah,
so.
it is still, and so okay, so with the core report, like you submit it and then like you automatically get applied to all the awards that you fulfill basically by doing this thing. But yeah, no, it is a big award. It's still in the pedagogics. It's like one of like the top like couple that is in there that shows you. So we were pretty happy about that. It was really cool. We have the plaque in the OLR. I'll check it out later. Yeah.
Just as one of my pet peeves over the years, would it be possible to get the alumni correspondent to put something in the Crossing Crescent? You know.
Yeah. No, it definitely would.
This is something to be proud of.
Yeah.
You know.
And every alumni is gonna relate to it, because they all did Chicopee too.
Wait, what?
And every alumni will relate to it, because they all did Chicopee too.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that's.
Yeah.
So there's alumni that live thousands of miles away.
Right.
The only connection they have is when they get the online Crossing Crescent, and they look under alumni news and they say Missouri S&T. Oh shit, there's nothing in here again. And I know.
Yeah.
You've heard me bitch about, well, you haven't, because you haven't finished that long.
You're a great straight man for our next discussion. You're a great straight man for our next discussion as well.
Very good.
So I'll touch on that. I have submitted, I think, 3 different articles this year. One of our brothers wrote a book a couple of months ago, so I submitted that. And then just this past month, I sent in a bunch of pictures when we did our Alzheimer's Association walk. So I have been submitting things. I don't know how it works, but I know I do submit them. I just don't know if they don't like them or if they don't get approved or whatever it may be. But I can tell you, I have submitted some things, but I don't do it every month.
Was that Bob Barry's book?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw something in there about that.
Okay, so it may just take a couple months for them to process it or whatever it may be, but I have been submitting a few things here and there.
But that's just something to be proud of.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you saw this, but Matthew Dorsey, one of our recent alumni, made it on there for his. He's currently in Germany doing like an ambassador program for the U.S., so it's kind of neat. Anyway, he's on the Crossing Crescent as well, but we will make sure we will submit things as frequently as we can.
Okay, any other new business or announcements? Any motion to adjourn?
Motion to close.
Second. Okay, motion to adjourn the general meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
That's kidding.
Okay, seeing no objection, general meeting is adjourned.
Yes, hey.
Be sure and sign the sign in, please.